We're on Hawk Street?
Yeah, Hawk Street, I looked into the issue with 23 Hawk Street that was brought to our attention last week, and what I can tell you, I followed this all the way back to 2016, where this property, the two city employees went over there and they reviewed it, and they decided it needed to be added to the city's demo list, which is why it never listed it for sale, is there's a lot of structural issues with it, there was some collapsing between the floors, something to that extent. So the decision then was made on the demo list, it wasn't listed, and it's been on the demo list. What we can find out now is what the plans are to actually get that demolition done, if anything. And if they would like to, we can have the property listed anyway, just to see if there's a third party who's interested in drawing it, taking care of themselves.
Should we understand it?
You do.
The person who submitted that email to us last week.
Oh, I didn't find any record of the claim. So.
Yeah, I don't think they did, Mr. Redding, right? I don't think she found the claim.
They said they did with the tree when it crushed her husband's car. They were told by the city, the law office, that because the tree wasn't specified which tree it was or something, when they said the tree was, so they denied the claim when this happened. Her husband passed away since. But one of the other problems is the broken glass is in her driveway, and her granddaughter got cut with a piece of glass, so there's issues there. And the other thing I don't understand is she sent, maybe it was a separate email, I don't know that, for some reason, our property managing team, if it's on the demo list, they were salting the steps. I don't understand why, because there's nobody in there. There's no mail going there or anything, so maybe there's a disconnect or something with that department.
Shouldn't be anyone living there. There was the belief last summer that there might be some squatters there, so we were getting ready to file for eviction on it. And then last October, our ODS people had been there and inspected it and said they don't want to be leaving, they're living in it, so we can move forward. So that's all that I've got in terms of record trail for where we're at the property right now.
Go ahead.
So, she just sent me more pictures here, and clearly only the first floor is boarded up, but the second and third floors, the windows, everything remains wide open over there. And the concern, I don't know what's on the other side of the property, but certainly, is there any way if we can at least board up the side of the windows that are facing her property so that these windows don't continue to break and the glass doesn't continue to fall in her driveway? Because I think it's an empty lot next door, if I recall.
I think it's,
Which is still an issue, but, they're very nice people. I mean, I just spoke with her today at 4:30 after the mayor sent an email saying that everything was secure and it was taken care of. And so I followed up to make sure, verify it, and she said the only thing on there is there was a post-it note from the city codes not to enter the building, but nothing else has been done with the property. And who's in charge of these? That's the other question I think that a lot of us are having now. Is it Floyd Slater? Is it Paul? Is it Chris? Who is taking care of boarding up these properties and actually going to the sites? And I don't know, Andrew can, he just left in there, Alex.
Well, that's something that normally would fall under Floyd's plate. He works with Paul upon, so Paul oversees that. What I would recommend, based on what you were just saying, is if you have a specific request about what you'd like to see happen to the property, send the pictures and the request to the mayor, and CC me on it, and then he'll make a determination on what we're going to do. I can't think of any reason why we couldn't do what you were alluding to there.
because there was a question, I remember some other properties, for some reason we have a problem boarding up second floors. I don't know what that's about. I remember there was one in Sheltingham Avenue, we can do the first floor, we can't do the second floor. We do have a bucket truck that we don't use much, and I threw, this was when I was on Paul about it.
We don't board up the second floor because there's not as much of a risk of people breaking in and getting into the property through there.
But when they're open, the problem is open, birds were going in and whatnot, so there's room going into the buildings. That was the problem. I know one on Sheltingham, on the end of Sheltingham near Torrington, there was a problem last year. And to me, it didn't make any sense why we can't secure it, and close it up.
It's not a big problem. I mean, we have several vacant properties that's not secure. It seems to be a problem throughout the city where we have vacant properties. So something needs to get done and protect these properties. And so people don't have to go through, honestly.
I will send the pictures and everything, and that I just received again today to both the mayor and to Carl. And we want to make sure we stay in touch with property owners. And again, we have so many that we've been turning in too. We just need some follow-up assurance that we need to take care of. And I think that's important.
Do you want to bring it back 2 weeks when updates?
See where we are with all of them?
I think we should.
That would be fine.
So can we have it 2 weeks and update? Any other business for public safety?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And these down here, just a couple of those here. Well, just a little piece. I'm going to call to order the command administrative efficiency. Just a brief overview. This is all we've had before. Again, talking about the New York State Paid Time Relief Act. We discussed it with our unions, had a presentation. But I'd really like to see the council move forward on this and really get to the point where we can start meeting with our union officials and, of course, our non-union employees as well to offer this wonderful program of paid time relief to all our employees here in the city of Schenectady. Quinn Hubble did a great job for us in the workers' compensation board. I spoke with her again this morning, and she suggested that we want to start slowly again to work possibly with our non-union employees first, to work with them to try to get it in the last quarter of 2019 from October to December, and then continue with negotiating with the unions to hopefully have that in effect for January of 2020. But there's still a lot of work to go. We still have to meet with all the union officials. They still have to do an official vote. And as you can see, I put the dollar amounts in there that are just relatively, very, very inexpensive folks. Again, somebody who's earning $52,000 a year, their weekly deduction would be $1.53 to have this complete coverage again for the paid family leave act. Again, I can't speak highly enough about it. So new child care, care of family members with serious health conditions, or when the loved one's family members deployed abroad or military active duty, and again, that's for 10 weeks. Any other discussion with this before? I think we need probably a motion afterwards.
I just want to confirm this is not costing the city anything. Correct?
Zero. There is not a single penny. There is nothing. Now, let me just not say zero because there are some administrative pieces in the beginning where we do have to get everybody enrolled and with the enrollment pieces. But again, we hired an insurance company, actually worked through an insurance company, and they work with New York State Board has several listed, and unfortunately the one that we are currently with does not participate in paid family leave. We're only using them for disability because we are self-insured. So we'd have to just connect with one of those insuring agencies. Again, the mayor's not here to confer, he's not here to speak on that behalf. So that's kind of where we go. But again, absolutely no cost, upfront cost, other than being folks involved.
Actually, there potentially is some cost with replacement costs with workers. So while I think it's probably not going to be big, what I'd like to see is some numbers from the Human Resources Department. We can use workers' compensation kind of as a proxy to see how many people might take advantage of the program and if there would be any costs of replacement for individuals who would be taking advantage of this program. I think that's something to consider before, at least have the number so we have an idea what we're getting into before we actually pass it. And then the other piece is one thing that maybe you could confirm with the, I forget the lady's name. She mentioned at one point that you could take like every Friday or every Monday off. That could potentially lead to an issue, and how will the city respond to a situation where maybe someone's taking advantage, kind of like workers' comp, if it's a similar investigation process, or just so we know what we're getting into before we actually say, yeah,
it is an investigation. The insurance company that you sign up with, they deal all of that investigative pieces for you. Again, that's on their behalf. The piece where 1 day a week, I don't recall that, John, and I really don't remember that. Well, sometimes I just don't recall that, because I mean, if I have a child parent, I'm going to take 1 day off a week.
Well, I'm just thinking if you want to take a 3-day weekend, you just take every Friday off.
Well, again, you have to have confirmation of what you're applying for. So in other words, you got to confirm, unfortunately, one way or the other, that you have a relative that's very, very ill.
Right, that's not the biggest one.
No, the biggest one, again, really, well, yes, it is. You got, again, the baby and the adoptions and fostering of children. But again, it is really overseen by the insurance company that you select is what you told. But I can clarify all that. Yes.
So I've been working with this for 1.5 years now. Well, not 1.5 years, but a little over a year. Yes, because obviously all employers are mandated to have New York State paid family leave.
Yes.
The reason we don't is because we're a municipality, but the insurance company pays the employee directly. The city has the option to pay the employee and get reimbursed by the insurance company, but the insurance company would just pay the employee directly. I'll give you an example of why somebody would have to take 1 day off a week. We had an employee whose child was born with a physical problem, and they had to drive once a week to an appointment in Boston to have this problem rectified. So he did take every Friday off, but it all comes with documentation. You can't game the system. I mean, I'm sure somebody could figure it out, but they will. You know, there is paperwork that needs to be filled out by the employee and by the doctor and by the employer. The employer's portion of it is pretty light. You just have to give the last 8 weeks of income for the employee, the dates that they're going to be out, verify the dates that they are out, that they did not work. So not a heavy administrative lift and absolutely no cost to the employer if they opt to have the employee paid directly. And no follow through on the back end as far as payroll like you would with third-party sick pay or anything like that. We've had, out of our 200-person staff, we've had 4 people utilize it, and it's been wonderful for them because we also, I think an important part is to make sure that in our policy, should we adopt this, that we say that it has to run concurrently with FMLA, because otherwise they can take the 12 weeks and then the 10 weeks, you know, but if you put in your handbook that they run concurrently, then it's just that one piece of time. But people can take intermittent days, yeah.
And that's what I gave you, the draft in there is just a draft with the employees or employers draft for us to use model language. But again, we work all that out with council, with the mayor, and the offices there. But again, I just want to, kind of move this thing forward so we can get the talks going with our union folks. Again, they have to buy in, they have to do a vote of the union. So it has to be approved by the jury of membership. And again, we're talking everybody. We're talking police, fire, we're talking sanitation, we're talking all our folks here in the City Hall. But I just think it's a wonderful opportunity for us, again, to show our investment and our concern for our employees. And again, at little to no cost. I mean, it's less than a cup of coffee if you think about it. For $100,000, to pay that small amount, I think it's just a wonderful idea. Okay, Jen, I will follow up with those other questions for you.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad program. We're not to do it. Just make sure we get our I's dotted. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would echo Ms. Perazzo in making sure that it is concurrent so that we don't run into any kind of issues along those lines with FMLA. Okay.
So do we need some sort of a resolution, Chuck, or Carl, just to confirm that we'd like to go forward with the New York State Paid Family Leave Act, that the council will work closely with the mayor's office and their unions?
So does this mean you're ready to vote now to formally offer it to all management employees and then start the process?
And start the process, yeah.
And start the process with union employees.
Mm-hmm.
What I can do, I believe, we may need a local law for this, but I'm not sure right now, but I can find out this week and get back to you. But what I recommend is that you vote now or call for a couple of hearings or either an ordinance or a local law. It would require that anyway.
Okay.
So then at least you're taking a step, and if it's just a resolution, then you'll be able to do that. I'll know in time for you to put that on the agenda.
Public hearing, yeah, see everything anyway. Let's hear from some of our folks, we'll make sure we hear from our union employees. Because we had quite a few of them that were here present at the meeting, and I spoke with every one of them afterwards, and there were a few questions or concerns that a lot of them had, and of course, you got to have 26 consecutive weeks of employment. There's other variations that the process, I'm sure the world as well. So, but again, I just think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to really invest in our employees. So, so we'll probably just call for the public hearing. Carl, is that playing it safer? Does that make it a little bit better? Right, I think I'm more comfortable with that, right? And then bring it back after that, because we're in no rush to move this. I'd like to hear from folks as well on that. All right, is that good?
Yeah.
All right, so we need a motion. John, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Anything else coming before our committee this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And all in favor, say aye. Thank you, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, I will call to order government operations, and first item on the agenda is the taxi cab rate discussion. I think everybody saw in their packet the information from Mr. Gibbs as well as Ms. Bailey, and just open it up for discussion.
That was in there, right? The rates, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President. That was in there, right? The rates are in there?
Yes.
They were given in there? Okay, so I don't understand. My apologies on that.
Rates are in there when you report.
Yes.
It was a certain.
Yep, that's correct. Okay, good.
Anyone?
So, we can increase our rates, and it's completely separate from the rest of the other cities that are also within the CDTA. So I think Mr. Gibbs was requesting that we increase the minimum from $4 to $5.
Yes.
That's the request.
Yes. And I believe, was there anything else that I know there was some clarification needed on the waiting time.
Yeah, it was also, he preferred 25 cents per eighth of a mile versus the 20 cents per tenth of a mile. And the surcharge, weekend surcharge, and the wait time, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, but I can add with that too. I got almost a lot of stuff written down already, so that's exactly right. The reason you want to go to the eighth of a mile, because that is what their meters are calibrated to. Because I couldn't understand that, because our odometers are tenth of a mile, and I'm thinking, well, why does he want this to an eighth? But that is the eighth of a mile is what the taxi cab meters are calibrated, so that is why they switched to that.
They said it came in like pocket full of change.
No, it does not change the number. Correct. It'll still come out to the same amount. Yeah. So
Well, and our designated test run for meters is an eighth of a mile in Schenectady. So
Yeah.
that would mean we would have to change our meter testing area too. So it makes sense that way as well.
So then that would be an eighth of a mile at 25 cents. Each additional eighth of a mile is at 25 cents.
Yeah, correct.
Per. All right, and let's go with that first half mile. I did a little research as well, and again, one of his complaints was the raise of minimum wage in New York State. Well, when we passed this ordinance back in 2016, New York State's minimum wage was $9 an hour. Right now, currently, we are at $11.10 an hour for 2019. So that's a $2.10 increase per hour that he's paying his employees, and he is paying them on an hourly rate. I confirm that with him, offer pay stubs, copies of pay stubs, because believe it or not, taxi cab drivers are exempt from the minimum wage. Again, I looked that up as well, so they are exempt, but he is paying the minimum wage for the taxi cab drivers. And I thought, Mr. Brown, while we're doing this, if we could look for an additional 50 cents for 2020. Because again, that's going to be going up an additional 70 cents in 2020 for $11.80 an hour. And rather than doing this every year, let's try to get it off our table for a couple of years and do $5 for 2019 and then $5.50 for 2020, recognizing again minimum wage is going to be going up to $11.80 next year.
comments? Mr. Reagan?
I mean, the argument they make is a valid one for sure, because that's a cost they can't absorb any other way but to charge the people more. And he also had a question, I believe, on the waiting time, which I didn't realize before. I guess someone can ask you, I want to cash a check, like you check at the bank, you know, and stop in, cash their check, and that can take some time. So they were requesting for each minute of waiting, they could be broken down to 15 minutes, but each minute of waiting time, 50 cents per minute, because the driver is getting paid while he's waiting there. So sometimes they have to wait 15, 20 minutes, sometimes longer. Depending on what
sometimes short too.
Yeah. I mean, they can request a pullover, I want to go on OTV, or I want to cash my check, or whatever. So I think that's reasonable. The dollar amount, I'm not sure, but because they said $7.50 for 15 minutes,
Right.
then it breaks down to 50 cents
Right.
a minute. It's the same thing.
Yes, Ms. Lucy, I'm sorry, Ms. Porterfield first, I'm apologize.
I always forgot to do when I sat there.
So I think that, first of all, I think 750 for 15 minutes, I think that's a lot, but the other thing is that they also are charging people to wait in slow traffic. That's something people have no control over. So I think that's just, I mean, you have no control over traffic being slow, but you're being charged because the traffic is slow. So
There's a reason for that. I'm trying to think.
yeah.
You're running your car.
Ms. Lucy, what's it?
So you're still paying the individual behind the wheel, and you're still paying for gas, you're still paying to have that car tied up. So it's not the driver's fault, it's just happenstance. And, you know, I would tend to agree with that. My other question, Ms. Peraza, was the 15 minutes of waiting time requested by passenger. It doesn't get charged until it hits the 15 minutes, or is he requesting that it's going to be every minute that they have to wait?
He's requesting every minute. The way this reads to me is that anything up to 15 minutes is $7.50. I mean, that's the way I interpret that. So I would prefer that it's 50 cents an hour. Because
No,
a minute. Because if it's 5 minutes, then the person's not getting charged $7.50, which seems exorbitant. So,
But reading this, it doesn't appear that they get charged until they hit the 15 minutes.
well, I don't read it that way.
No,
I think the minute he stops.
Yeah, I don't read it that way.
It's another fee. Right, $7.50, so $15. Well,
Okay.
we have an hour.
No, but I don't think it's an unreasonable request personally. I think it's probably a good idea to look at it as minute by minute, and maybe a 50 cent is sufficient. My only concern about raising, and I'd have to look at a percentage for the raising of the minimum wage is going up. You know, and I didn't run the numbers on this to see what percentage he's looking for now. And I don't know if we want to do some sort of a cost increase, a COLA, when, you know, minimum wage goes up, it goes up by a certain percentage. I don't know if we can build something like that in, and I'd ask the economist to work the numbers on that to figure out what it would be.
Continuously?
Yeah, I mean, and this way we wouldn't have to, I mean, as minimum wage goes up, you know, this would be, right, I mean.
It's going up 70 cents in 2021.
Right,
So
and-
70 cents is the number. It seems to be.
All right.
70 cents.
But it's also on a 5-year plan, and we're nearing the end of it, so who knows what it goes to.
Right, so not that this isn't important, but I would rather see us, you know, address this so we're not going backwards where the minimum wage has already been instituted, and, you know, he's not able to take advantage of these increases until we pass it. So if there was some sort of a COLA instituted into it. And I don't know if that's possible or not, Mr. Valtico.
Certainly possible, right? I would be funded.
Okay.
I believe we've changed this so that all it needs to, for us to change the rates, we already went through the process, all we have to do is by resolution, right? Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's a good thing to come before the council on an annual basis versus putting something automatic that goes into place. It just lets us take a look at it and kind of measure where we are versus other people, and I don't disagree with that we should have it on our radar, but you had another question?
No, I just wanted to revisit the 30 cents, and if the 750 is going to be 50 cents a minute, that makes more sense than you jump in the car, or they ask and stop and immediately it becomes 750. But in terms of the waiting time, it's not the driver's fault, it's also the passenger's fault, and I don't know what we do about that. Maybe they can make it 15 minutes, but to be in slow traffic is not, no one has control of that. But you're saying that passenger bears the entire charge. So the passenger bear half of it and as well as the company. Because again, nobody has control of that. Neither one of them. But the passenger is bearing the entire cost of that. So I think that's something we should look at.
So, Ms. Rosen?
Yes.
So Vince, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he say it's a separate clock that they use when they're waiting? So it's a separate, it's not like the meters continue running, there's a separate
There's a time
button
clock.
that he clicks that actually is like a stopwatch or
Yeah, it's a
timing
time clock.
the individual, how long they're in the bank or how long they're in the store or whatever. And again, it's been years since I've been in a taxi, but again, you've seen it, understand too. I guess it happens quite often. Well, they will have 3, 4, 5 stops, he was saying. And of course, the passenger says, hey, wait for me.
Right.
And they have to wait for me.
I'm not arguing that. That's fine. I mean, as long as it's 50 cents a minute. I'm talking about slow
Yeah,
traffic.
that's it, but yeah, so it's in the
That's
same
not-
realm, I think.
It's absolutely not. How is that in the same realm? You tell the driver to slow down, how is it? No, it's not the same. Ask them for a stop and the traffic being slow, it's not the same.
Well, we're good in the city, not gonna look except for here.
Yeah, go downtown.
That's what I'm saying, downtown, right. That's a good thing though, that's a good thing, having traffic jam downtown.
Unless you're in the taxi, slow traffic.
That's the only times we had no traffic downtown.
All right, so the changes are, is everybody comfortable with the $5 for the first mile?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay. And do we want to now institute that as of 2020, it'll go up to $5.50, or do we want to revisit it? I would prefer to revisit it.
Yeah, I think we should revisit it on a yearly basis.
Okay.
You know, well, let me just go with that. So we don't want to get at least this one off the table for 2 years and then maybe work on something else. I mean, you're really going to bring this back again next year? You're going to have to bring it back in December or November to let this start in January. You can't.
Behind now.
Yeah.
Well, behind now.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, at least we have 1 year, Mr. Rouse, and then.
No, we can change by
I thought
As
we
long as
resolution.
the legislation says it's going to be set by resolution, when we put in most of the changes that we've had over the past couple of years, then it should not be a public hearing.
I'll go with majority. I just think we get 2 years off the plate and be done with it. Let's see what happens.
So I tend to agree with Mr. Kosher on this because this is going to change. We already know what the change is going to be for next year on the minimum wage. So instead of us, why don't we get ahead of this a little bit instead of it, staying behind it? And he's only doing 50 cents and it's going to go up 70 cents. So it's not even going up the same, the exact same increment that it's going up.
Well,
I know, but I'm just saying it's not, I would just hate for us to get, to November or December and just fall off the radar for whatever reason. And, we're addressing it again in February or March.
I guess it's about consensus. Sorry, you'd like 2 years, Mr. Mutaverdi, you'd like to revisit? You'd like 2 years, Mr. Riggi?
2 years.
Okay,
2 years.
all right, so we'll set for 2 years, because I'm fine with 2 years, because we know what's coming down the pike, and then we'll revisit it going forward. Is anybody not willing to compromise on that portion of it, so that we can get through the rates in general? Okay, great. All right, wonderful. So the changes are $5 for the first mile, also $5.50 as of 2020. Let me just shut my email. Each additional eighth of a mile will be 25 cents. And I have to get to Mr. Gibbs' email here. There was also a weekend surcharge that had been left off, I believe.
Yes.
That we would need to put into place. Ordinance does say the surcharge is $1.50, but we found that people complained, so let's set that at $1. I think that's very reasonable. 50 cents we could have for nights and weekends. So I believe that's everything, correct?
So only Saturday and Sunday, what are you doing all day Saturday, Sunday?
It's the,
We're adding that in there?
right, the surcharge is $1.
Okay, so you're adding that.
But 50 cents nights, weekends, and holidays would be an additional 50 cents. And then it's the 50 cents per minute for the wait time versus the $7.50 for the up to 15 minutes. Did you got all that, clerk?
You'll play the tape back.
Okay, great.
50 cents for
Yeah,
one.
you have another question?
With the one that was address the waiting time.
The 12 traffic. I don't think that there's consensus to address that.
So you can get the numbers.
Yes.
The other issue that he had was the age of vehicles. Were they going to allow a new year to get that up?
I do not know, that's CDTA, that's not us. I mean, we lobbied really hard to get that moved from 7 years to 10 years, which
Yeah.
we were successful at, but that's going to be, I would say, CDTA's call, not ours.
It's not something we're going to.
In the in
It's in their legislation. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yep. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Riggi, seconded by Ms. Porterfield. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And next we have the reconsideration of Resolution 2019-021. Mr. Coker?
Yes, thank you very, very much. And as you read, the mayor ended up vetoing our resolution to strongly advocate for keeping the fourth city court judge. And while I was away on vacation, the city clerk emailed to me on Wednesday, February 20th, the veto of the mayor. And of course, there's some discrepancy where the mayor says it has to be taken up at the next meeting to override. And that certainly would not have been the case because the next meeting of the council would have required unanimous consent to put it on the council agenda. So other interpretations we have here, it says we have 30 days. As a matter of fact, there was an article in the Gazette on November 14th, 2012, when the council overrode the mayor's budget back then. And it clearly said that the council had 30 days to make the decision. And I have copies of this if anybody wants to see that as well. So with that in mind, I am assuming that, or I understand, and I'm fairly confident that we have the right to move this piece of the resolution again forward. Again, to urge the mayor and urge our city elected officials to keep our fourth city court judge here in the city of Schenectady.
Mr. Palatino, did you have any legal opinion to offer or before we, from your perspective?
No.
That's a short answer.
Short answer. I can give you kind of a little bit longer explanation for why, if you're interested.
Sure.
Sure. Recently, I was made aware of a potential difference of opinion between the mayor and the city council regarding the city charter and the timeframe for reconsideration of the mayoral veto. As corporation counsel, it is my duty to provide legal advice to both the mayor and city council, even on issues where they may disagree. While I believe I have the expertise to interpret the charter and provide accurate legal advice about the issue in question, it would not be appropriate for me to do so in this instance. As many people know, I have been endorsed to run for city court judge by a number of political parties. I believe this fact makes it likely that the mayor, members of the council, or members of the public may find that any conclusions that come to about this issue should be influenced by my interest and position. While I have never rendered legal advice due to any outside pressure or personal interest, I recognize the unique set of circumstances present here could lead to that perception, and thus I will not be taking any interest on the issue, or any position on the issue. In order to provide the mayor and the city council with some direction on this, last Friday I hired the law firm of Whiteman, Osterman, and Cannon to review our city charter and provide a memo outlining how they believe the judge would rule if anyone was to bring litigation about the time frame for reconsideration of the mayoral veto. I instructed them to provide their independent view of the issue and not to take any external factors into account. I chose this firm for a number of reasons. First, as the largest law firm in the Capital Region, they have experts in almost every area of law on staff, which will allow us to get the most accurate legal opinion possible. Secondly, given the time frame in which the council is looking to act, it is important to get this memo done in a timely manner. The firm has agreed to have its founding partner, Michael Whiteman, head up their work on this issue. He is a former counsel to 2 governors and the former chair of the State Bar Association's Ethics Committee. They have promised to have a memo to you in the coming days. Now, this is advisory only. You're not bound to follow it. You take it for whatever you think it's worth. But as I've informed the mayor already as well, that if you, for some reason, would like separate counsel, or you'd like, the opinion of a separate law firm, or if you'd like to discuss any of your other legal opinions, whether any separate counsel or any separate law firm, I can make some recommendations. We can hire a firm of your choice. I'll facilitate that for you, and then let you have whatever interactions with them that you would like. And I've made the same offer to the mayor.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
And again, Mr. Rouse, I can't stress the importance of having this city court judge. I do understand our fiscal piece, but I would also like the mayor and his staff to come forward to the council to at least present the options of looking at relocating to the second floor here in City Hall, and also the relocating possibly at Liberty Street in conjunction with the police station. I understand there might be some plans available, but let's take a look at those. Let's run some figures by us, and let's start talking numbers instead of just making some statements here that we really don't know that are factual at this point. But again, that court is extremely, extremely busy. We talked about the revenue side of it, but it really isn't that. It's really about the cases that they're hearing. Again, I can't stress the domestic violence, the orders of protection, our code enforcement, and now with additional code enforcement officers that we're hiring. I certainly like to see more cases brought before our court. And of course, tenant and landlord issues was a very, very high number. That number did not go down in the numbers that the mayor presented to us. That number, in fact, went up substantially from over 2,000 cases to 3,300 cases. And again, that's tenant landlord issues, which I think are very, very important and should be a major concern for all of us here. But again, I really want to stress the cooperation that the city should have with the controller's office if possible, OCA, and of course our elected officials as well to help us offset the cost. But again, we're the only city that hasn't complied with the city and facilities for a four-city court judge in the entire state of New York, and I think it's long overdue. I think this resolution will prove that we're in support of that, and I will send copies to, again, as I said, all our elected officials, including the governor and lieutenant governor and the chief judge of New York State as well.
Yes, I agree. It's a quality of life issue for us, and I think that's very important for all the reasons Mr. Kosher stated, and certainly I am open to any information that comes from the comptroller's office as to why we might not, or the OCA, why we might not need a fourth judge, but I'm not willing to guess at that when the state is mandating that we do that. And of course, being fiscally conservative is something we all keep at the top of our, well, I can't speak for other people, that I keep at the top of my mind, but there's that balance between being fiscally conservative and making sure that the residents of the city get the services that they need, especially some of the sensitive services that our city court judges deal with. So I'm not ready to move forward on speculation of whether we need one or not. And other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Lupski-Wilson.
I still strongly feel that we should have some sort of fiscal overview. I think it's warranted and necessary. I'm not saying that our courts aren't needed, but I think if we could have a fiscal overview of exactly what we do need, I think would be much more prudent.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Other questions or comments? Okay, I will look for a motion to move the resolution out of committee again.
So
Mr.
moved.
Riggi, second by Ms. Porterfield. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Is there any other business to come before government operations this evening? Actually, there is a bit of business. My
You
apologies.
should know.
My apologies. Just wanted to kind of look back to Reverend Grigsby's testimony at the rail last week about the liquor store, proposed liquor store for Albany Street. There's been a pretty significant voice from the community, not just people that came to the rail, but other feedback that I've gotten that really opposes the liquor store in that area, and would like to see some sort of zoning regulation put in place that would prohibit a liquor store. That makes me a little nervous because how do we balance being discriminatory to business versus what a neighborhood wants? And I did reach out to Ms. Diat earlier today to have you possibly share some different scenarios that we might consider as a council with regard to zoning. But I guess my main question is this practice in place anywhere else that, I mean, could it potentially be discriminatory, against a specific kind of business? So are you able to speak to that tonight, or would you like?
I would need to really look into the parameters around all of that. Today was extremely
Yeah,
so
sure.
I did get your message, but I would be happy to look into the different scenarios and, best practices around what we can do to address that.
Mr. Kosher, maybe we'll put this on the agenda for a couple of weeks, because I think it does bear discussion as to, when you have a neighborhood that speaks so loudly to something, is there a way we can fairly capture their voice and their concerns and kind of protect them from that? And I don't know what the answer is to that.
And just to clarify a comment that somebody made in the paper, the chair here, Wallinger, voted against the project, all right? Somebody had wrote an letter to the editor, or somebody I saw someplace, the public comment said that even the chair of the planning voted for it, and in fact, she did not. So just want to clear the record on that for her.
Did you have your hand up? No? Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, so we'll revisit that in 2 weeks, and we'll talk in between. Great. Now, I will look for a motion to adjourn government operations. Moved by Mr. Brady, seconded by Mr. Greenfield. All those in favor? Aye. Adjourn.
Okay, I want to open city planning and development, and let me see here first up, the adoption of amendment 2015-19 consolidated plan.
So back in December, we brought to the council the proposed neighborhood revitalization strategy area along with the Mount Pleasant renewal plan.
And then again, great work, you have your entire department, for pulling this and working on this project. I think it's really going to benefit our community and our city very, very well. And it's just a compliment of fun that people should.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really going to allow us to have focused efforts around looking at vacancy, looking at development, looking at economic opportunities, and just revitalization of specific targeted areas. So, I think
All in favor?
Aye.
So the second item is the amendments to the 2018-19 annual action plan.
Yep, so that was something else that we brought back in December based on just some of the reallocations that were made to the 2019.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the ceremonial resolution for new choices being presented by Ms. Porter.
Yeah, so New Choice is having their 50th anniversary, and also they just moved to a new location. So it's going to the ceremony resolution at that event to recognize them.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ceremonial resolution for St. Patty's Day?
Yeah, we have our annual resolution coming up. Our Irish dancer is going to come and visit us, and so we just got an email and passing it forward for our ceremonial resolution to recognize St. Patty's Day.
Questions?
I'll move it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item is the final review of the sidewalk replacement program. And Mr. Conley has some information on that.
Yep, I received emails today. I was out of town over the weekend, so I put together a little packet of top two sheets are something that could be used for a pamphlet to be put together, and the bottom sheet is a cost factor for 4 inches per 6 inches. So I figured just go through the questions that were submitted. One of them was going up to 4 inches versus 6 inches, and what would the cost factors be? As you can see in the last paper, which was put together by Mr. Wallen, that there is some savings of, depending upon the actual price of the cement per flag. There is a substantial savings. And when used with the driveway piece must be 6 inches. So he included a factor with 6 inches. That does not include the payback part with the interest. I can get you those numbers just to give you an idea. You know, in the paperwork it includes a 6-inch slab, but with a 4-inch slab, for a 10-year period, you're looking at $2,027 rounded up. For 12 years, $2,103, and for 15, $2,221. That breaks down to $1,689 a month, $1,460 per month, and $1,234 per month. Now, I will make sure you get copies of these numbers. As far as if it's including the driveway, obviously the price is a little bit higher. Mr. Wong included a price for a 4-inch with the 6-inch for the driveway, and instead of reading them, I'll just give you all copies of that number.
How wide is the drive?
2 flags. It's right here, and and his.
Oh, okay, very good.
So 2 flags at 6 inches sewn together.
Good, very good.
So that gives information on the 4-inch piece versus 6-inch, and includes the driveway when that is included or necessary. I think to put it in the general informational packet that would just be available to anybody would be a mistake. But however, when people go to do the petitions, it's easy enough to put that exact information in there. The assessor's office will provide all the frontage and information with regards to how much sidewalk there is. So to get a fairly exact cost should not be a problem at all. So the individuals, it's somewhere in the packet, could go to the clerk's office to get petition forms. They could get the ownership and frontage information easily accessible through the city's assessor's office. She is more than willing to help out. The city engineer will put the bids out for the actual cost of the concrete and can provide information on whether a 4-inch or 6-inch slab would be necessary. So I think the idea is where 4 inches is usable to go that route and use that for cost savings. That does not mean it'll be lesser quality. There will be included in that the mesh steel. Also that they will put out tests to make sure the concrete is good quality, and that's included in all the tests that they do with cement anyway. So they want to make sure that there is good quality cement, but providing the best value. So that, I think, answers that question. Whether the payback period, We could certainly set a payback period. Oftentimes with special assessment, it is the actual district that is asking for a particular payback. I would recommend no more than 15 years. Certainly think a 10 to 15 year period is the best way to go. That gives best bang for the buck to residents and allows a lower fee to pay back. Has the payback period been established yet was a question. No. The costs, those would be put out to bid by engineering, so we don't know what those are until they actually put out the bid. And for property owners behind on taxes, I thought a good solution might be to, if there's someone within a special assessment district, they would not be able to take advantage of the special assessment district. However, code enforcement would ensure that code is enforced in that particular case. So the sidewalk would be continuous, but it does not allow that individual to gain the advantages that the rest of the district would benefit from. I thought that was a good solution. Next question.
Just for clarity,
Mm-hmm.
so are you saying someone behind on their taxes would have to actually put out that money 100%?
Yes, either pay up their taxes, be on track, or code, actually enforce code. I mean, we haven't done anything with sidewalks for the longest time. It needs to either enforce the code, which we already have, or put together a program such as this to actually help residents maintain and fix their sidewalks. The issue of walkability, we've made it an emphasis in the city to have a walkable city, and if we don't do something, we might as well just toss that in the garbage. So I think that's a pretty good alternative. A draft of what neighborhood folks would be able to hand out. That's what the first 2 pages is. That could easily be put into a pamphlet. Certainly if there's a neighborhood looking to move forward, they would start that process of contacting the assessor's office and the clerk's office. They could get the exact information relatively easy, which could be put into a pamphlet that could be handed out so people have a relatively good idea what their actual costs would be. Have the streets been pre-selected as per the Gazette article? No. I think that's just a misquote or mistyped answer. How do we plan to publicize the program and availability of petitions for folks to gather signatures? Certainly you can work with the neighborhood associations to get this information available. You can certainly put something perhaps on OSM to make people aware on our city website. And in regards to the petitions, the form has been passed out before. That will be available in the clerk's office, and that will be the starting process. The deadline for submitting petitions, does the council have any say on the street selected? I think the deadline will be just around when bids go out for paving and for cement. That way the engineer's office knows what kind of amount of cement they need to actually put the bid out. So that would be an important time frame.
We're talking like in March, early April?
I want to say it's March, April. I think April is when they typically push the bids out. Yeah, it is.
Probably by the end of April.
Yeah.
So we need to get moving on this.
And as far as say on the streets, basically we're not choosing, it's neighborhoods coming to us or special assessment districts coming to us. So other than actually approving a special assessment district, we are not choosing what streets are getting done. Other questions that were submitted. In regards to trees, how will the city determine whether a tree has been removed, has to be removed, and who will bear the cost of the removal? That would be the city engineer's purview about trees. It's been discussed. Certainly the city would bear that cost with the removal of the tree. Transparency, how will projects be chosen if there are too many? Right now we have a pilot project. It would be up into the amount of money that we approved for capital, which in this particular year is $1 million. The debt cap has been asked a number of times, and the answer is still the same. We do not run into that issue with the debt cap, and to make sure that we don't, every year we would approve those capital funds anyway. So if it became an issue, we just would not approve that. Escrow, that's something between a personal, individual person and their mortgage company. That's really not something to do with the city at all. I think Ms. Elizabeth could probably expand upon that if need be. Cost relief in regards to people that can improve this financial burden. I think a possible solution, a good solution, would be to set aside a small amount of CDBG funds for those that are in a financial burden. If they are in that case, they would likely be approved for CDBG anyway. And so that individual could apply for some of those funds. That program is something that could be run by BNI. They could help administer it. That's something I talked to them about to see if that's something that they could, and they said they can and easily handle that application process. And as far as the participation percentage of 85 or 90%, the comment was 75% is too low. The reality is, for special assessment districts, as has been noted a number of times, the lift is usually 50% plus one individual. We're asking for 75%, which is a significant number. Try to get anybody in the city to agree, 3/4 of anybody in the city agree on anything, you'd be hard pressed. So 75% is a fairly substantial number, and I would think going higher would just be basically telling people you don't want to support the program anyway. So I think that addresses the email questions I received.
Questions? Ms. Woodson?
A little clarity around the cost relief. You said that people that would need the cost relief probably would fall into the category of already the monetary of CDBG. And I'm not sure that's necessarily so, because when we talk about property owners, they're probably, if you own multiple properties, you probably don't fall into the CDBG guidelines. So, is there a way for us to say that the property that they own, that the people who live there, fall into the CDBG guidelines as opposed to the individual owning them? Because that's two different things.
Well, go ahead.
I did have a conversation with James Slack, who's the executive director at BNI, and he explained to me that there are property owners that would be able to income qualify even if they did have multiple properties. So he said that even if you had, 2 4-unit dwellings, there's still income qualifiers that they would be able to adhere to assist them with that.
But for those that do not. So I'm not saying that's not true. I'm saying in addition to that, those who fall outside that, who have just so many properties and so much income and all of that, would we be able to look at the people who live in the property and then income qualify as opposed to the owner of the property?
No, because then you're having two separate things. If we're requiring property owners to sign off on the sidewalk program, which is the standard there, to say somebody in the household, then you have two different things, your apples and oranges.
No.
Yes.
No, I'm not asking the property if the person that lives in the house to sign it. I'm simply saying if a person's income, because they have some of the properties, this is it's not theoretical. We know that we have many people that own multiple properties that live in the city, and maybe there are some who would income qualify, but I venture to say that many of them would not, simply because of the number of properties that they own. So what I'm asking is, if a person, because as you all know, my goal is that so the person doesn't get their rent increase because the property owner has to now take on this cost. So there are programs like the lead program that the person who lives in the house, it's because of their income that decides whether the lead program can be used in that house, not the homeowner. So something similar to that is already done with the lead program, so it's something that I think we could easily be a part of this, so that we're not passing that cost on, so then that cost then does not again get passed on. And I know that you feel like, well, anytime you do improvement, it immediately gets passed on. But if there's a way that we could do it with CDBG funds, that we could consider that as part of it.
So from just taking a 15-year payback, and let's say that there's a 4-unit, it would be a $16.44 per month payment that would be needed to be paid. So if a property owner needed to increase the rent, you're looking at, less than $5 per unit that it would be increased. I don't think that's an exorbitant amount of money to have your rent increased by, to have safe sidewalks. And I think it's reasonable, and I think if the actual property owner could not afford it, and there are qualifiers for the property owners who have multiple properties, and although you say they have a lot of properties, it's all based on what the adjusted gross income is, not necessarily what that property derives from revenue. It would be a conglomeration of all the properties or that specific property. I don't think that it's an unrealistic expectation that someone, can raise the rent less than $5 to have safe sidewalks.
So we're gonna write that in, that if you don't raise it.
No, I'm saying, I'm using a 15-year example, okay? I took a 4-unit, and that's an average, okay? If they were to spread it out over 15 years, it would be less than $5 per month per unit.
If the property owner would say, well, I'm raising, it's gonna go $5 for me, I'm going up 10 for you. If that happens, but if they go up a lot more, and I think we're using different examples. I'm not talking about one family house, I'm talking about somebody who owns 10 properties where.
Well, we're only talking about one house per, a sidewalk is however much sidewalk there is in front of that house. If there's a house on Eastern Avenue, it's got 4 units in it, and I don't know, it has 30 feet of sidewalk. If they were to do this, and they did it over a 15-year period, it would be less than $5 a month that would be increased on the taxes. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not taking every single, unless they own the entire block.
And guess what? There are people who own multiple houses. Am I wrong? Multiple houses on one block. Just so you know, that is like absolutely the truth. So.
I don't think it's an overwhelming cost personally. And if you look at this, I mean, it's going to increase the value of the property, and it's going to make a safer neighborhood and more walkable. So, Mr. Conley, did you have anything to add?
No. Just about walkable cities. I mean, this has nothing to do with it. But right now, we have a problem with walkable city. People aren't clearing their walkways, and our intersections are blocked right in. People can't walk. So we can have brand new sidewalks. They'll be brand new, but unless we get them cleared, we have to start enforcing that a bit too. I think you can't walk down the street. People are walking in the street. City-owned Sheltingham Avenue hasn't been cleared all winter long. People have to walk, and a lot of people walk in Sheltingham Avenue, kids going to school too. Those sidewalks were never cleared. So they could be brand new, that's fine, but when we talk about walkable, let's make it walkable all the way, winter and summer. That's my thing, because I get so many complaints about that. People are forced to walk in the streets. So again, the sidewalks can be brand new, but, and the other issue I have with it is the fairness between those who already got sidewalks under the old program, where it got spread around to everybody when it was with the street paving program, which the mayor did promise when I asked him last year, he was putting it back in, and that changed. But that's another issue that I have with it, the fairness of it to those who have brand new sidewalks they won't have to worry about probably if they were done correctly for their lifetime. And then somebody else gets in there, you're gonna have to pay an a la carte fee for it, like we do with garbage, sewer, and water. So I call it tax a la carte, and that's what it seems to be. It's fine, we need the program, don't get me wrong, but I think it has to be fair across the board too. I don't know how we can make that fair anymore, because that's already changed.
in regards to fairness, this is actually the residents bringing this forward. It's not us shoving this. So to that extent, it is.
But somebody that doesn't sign on could be forced into this, quite honestly.
Correct, but I mean, it's probably going to be minimal, you know, in order to reach that 75% threshold.
Any other questions or comments?
And once again,
I do not think getting is a bad idea. I just don't think we have, I think it's half-baked legislation. I just think we should decide ahead of time what we're going to do with the trees. It should be in the legislation. I think that the payback period of time should be across the board the same. It should be in the legislation. And I think we should have some sort of indication from finance that if we're talking about a 15-year payback as this $1 million at a time accrues, and I realize it's getting paid back at the same time, but where we are with our debt cap, what the finance concerns might be, you know, where we might run into trouble. I just think for me to feel comfortable with this legislation, I just think there's, and I understand it's not, the escrow issue is not on the city, but from someone who went through it personally, I think we should have some sort of information in the pamphlet or something to let people know. In my circumstance, my taxes went up a very small amount, my escrow went up almost $200 a month, and I had to refinance my house. So even if it is $60 or whatever the case may be, the escrow tends to pad that to make sure that it's safe for them. And then you get the money back at the end of the year, but it doesn't help if you can't, you know what I mean? It doesn't help if you can't afford that increase every month. You know, and we have people that live very close to the bone, and the city everywhere does. So it's not that I disagree with the program, I just don't feel as if it's fleshed out enough for me at this juncture to feel comfortable on behalf of all the residents in the city to vote yes. So I will not second the motion.
Are there any other questions to pose?
Yeah, so talk about the payback. We're putting this through capital, but the residents are going to be paying it back to the city, obviously.
Yeah.
So the reflection in our debt cap is.
it's sustainable debt.
Right. I mean, can you elaborate on that for like me to understand?
So,
you know, folks might be watching, right?
I mean, just like our regular bonds, we take out bonds, they get paid back over time. This is not something that the city is paying for out of its own. It would be, you're basically saying, all right, I want these sidewalks, we'll give you $2,000 up front to get the sidewalk, and you pay it off every month or quarter with your taxes and as part of your special assessment program. So it gets paid off and it basically zeroes out once the program runs its course.
And just two other points, we did get a couple of emails, the Stockade Neighbor Association, we had a few of the folks here that actually sent a letter of support for the program, so we appreciate that. And we did get another email from Bob Harvey, who's the president of 12309 and all those other associations. And he did, again, just for the program, I mean, he did make the mention to go to 90% possibility, but I just think that's way too high as well.
Clear that this is.
He's president, well, okay, that the association, well, very good, that I do, I'll back on that. So we had an email from Mr. Harvey as well, so. You know, I agree with some of my colleagues, you know, there's still a lot of stuff to be fleshed out and worked out, but we've been talking about this for so many years now. And again, just to get a pilot program going, I think even if we just do a couple of streets, we're not under any obligation to spend the whole $1 million, are we?
No, so again, this is a pilot program. We are the city council. If something arises, we can address it. I mean, you can't sit there and create a legislation that's going to create every single scenario under the moon. It's impossible. So, you know, if an issue comes up, we can address it. It is a pilot program. So right now there's a couple streets that have indicated interest, and I suspect that they'll be putting in their petitions as well as maybe one or two others. But again, we don't need to spend an entire million, and we get it going, see what the, what needs to be addressed, if anything, and go from there.
All right, very good. No other questions?
Okay, so I'll second it. All in favor? Okay, moving right along. Next on the agenda, Mr. Kosher, your appointments.
Yes, we have a couple of appointments here. Number 6 and 7 are going to both be mine, obviously. We have our appointment to Metroplex has come due, and as you well may be aware, the City Council has one appointment to that committee, as does the Mayor's office. Now, also, let's just keep on, this is only a recommendation to the county legislature. The county legislature still has to approve our nomination. All right, I got that clarified from the folks on county legislature. I thought it's like, once we pass them through, the individuals are on. In fact, they will go through an interview process at the county legislature as well. So I sent an email out to folks if anybody had any interest, or if we knew of anybody who was interested in applying, and we did get 2 resumes that I forwarded to everybody last week. And of course, the first one is from Councilmember Karen Zalewski-Walzilis, who's our current member on Metroplex, and she has her resume included, including there were some questions by some folks whether or not there was any conflict of interest with her being on that board. And then Jamie Lott from Ray Gillen, actually it was from Ray Gillen, the chair, sent us another interpretation from Metroplex Development themselves regarding that. And then we had another resume that was sent in by a panelist, Swanigan. And as I had mentioned, the person is supposed to be a city resident. Unfortunately, this address is in the town of this community. So that would kind of eliminate this individual from there. Now, the ironic thing is, again, I was on way on vacation the week of the 18th there. The letter was sent to me by the chair, Tony Jasinski, on the 18th, and they wanted our appointment by February 22nd. So that's typically how they work, and I certainly informed them that was not going to happen with us here, that we have our meeting on the 4th, and hopefully we can give them a recommendation by the 11th. So that's where we are this evening. So we do have Karen Zalewski-Walzilis, and your chair, if you want to entertain any questions or thoughts or any concerns.
So the other person whose resume that was received, I sent in, she had 123 online zip code. I didn't realize that put her still outside the city. So I do have a couple questions, but I think you answered it. But how many seats does the city have to appoint?
Just ours. The city council has one, and then the mayor has one.
So the city council, we just have that one.
That is correct,
And,
yes. From what I understand, the mayor is reappointing Sharon Jordan. I mean, I don't know about record, is that? Yes or no, Alex? Yes? Correct. That is correct. So the Sharon Jordan is going to be their nomination.
How many people are on the board?
Now that, we'll have to reserve over you.
I am, so. 10.
10 counting the chair, Mr.
Counting the chair.
10 counting the chair.
But he's always the chair, so because he runs Metroplex, so nobody appoints him, he stays there. So the county appoints him.
The
County appoints him.
So, but all the other people get appointed by the county and towns. Right.
Yes.
Are there term limits?
There are no term limits.
So, well, how long is the term limit? Is what I should ask.
Well, it's 3 years. Terms are for 3 years, and I can say that Mr. Golden has been on since the inception.
So is Brad Lewis.
And
Brad Lewis is the other.
But those aren't people that we have anything, we have no control.
You know, those are the county legislators.
Appointments.
Correct.
So, I mean, I read through, obviously, I know Bill's about this, and I read through it, and I know she's on there. And so, I have to tell you that, I'm bringing this from a perspective that we keep talking about how we're going to increase the diversity on this governing board. And when we have the opportunity, we don't always necessarily take that opportunity. So this was a time that we could take that opportunity to try to, so our boards that are making decisions are more reflective of the entire city and county. And so this is an opportunity, it's the only one apparently that we ever get in terms of the Metroplex board. So with that, if this person isn't the person, I think that we should still be able to, and we could take the time to see if we can find someone that could fill that role. Mrs. Wilson is very much part of the decision-making body, and I think this, to be able to have someone else also be in the decision-making position, and again, increasing the diversity is my focus on this. We talk about it, we've had opportunity to do it, we don't, and it's just time for us to just step up and say that. So I'm not going to talk about you like you're not here. So I mean, I know that you basically have an opportunity, if you so choose, to say that, you know, I could work with that, I would, you know, I'd be willing to do that. I understand that may not be your choice, but I think we really have to really start taking a look at when we start appointing people to the board, that it's not only people in the circle that we know, because sometimes that happens, you choose who you know, I get it, that we do a larger reach or cast our net a little further, and again, to make sure that our diversity, not a diversity of ethnicity, also a diversity of thought, so that we're bringing new ideas and different people to the table. So, which is why I submitted this application, this resume, because the person did express an interest. There were two other people, but in speaking to Mr. Kozer, he thought that they needed more background in economic development, and said that maybe that wasn't, you know, they weren't resumes that could be brought forward. I'm not sure that everyone on board had that, and this is something that can be learned, but in terms of these appointments, and again, we won't have this opportunity again for 3 years. So I think we should take a look at that. So that's why I'm bringing forward this. And if it's not this person, to take a couple of weeks or whatever, and to see if there's someone else who has an interest.
And I do appreciate the comments, and I appreciate you being on the board, but obviously our time frame is today, unfortunately. Again, he was looking for February 22nd, which I told the chair there's absolutely no way that could be done. And the same way with the bar appointment coming up. You know, I send emails out to all our council members here to submit names to ourselves and get resumes. So, if we want to talk about diversity and bringing new people in, I think it's up to each individual council member to go out and really work hard and to get those names to us and encourage individuals to come involved with us. And I agree. We've talked about this for years, all the way through. I mean, you know, we have our affirmative action board that's out there doing some good work, on gardeners doing some good work for us, and I just think, again, as a council, I agree with you. But I think at this point, I wholeheartedly support Karen Zluski-Wozniak. She's done a good job for us. She's now the treasurer, I believe, right? Which I have a little problem with that, but I don't go there. But, I think she brings some good insight to the council as well, sitting on that board. As does Sharon Jordan. We all have good relationships with Ms. Jordan. She's been there from day one as well, as she said, on the graduates. And, you know, we got to be honest, they've done a great job. You know, we're finally getting into the neighborhoods now. Their downtown's really been the focus, and now we're getting into the neighborhoods, getting into Mount Pleasant, the Hill, Eastern Avenue, Cransky Quarter. So, you know, I would just say it's up to ourselves to really get those names out and start looking and bringing those individuals in however we can. But
just like you had a short time frame, so did I. So let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
And you know, we said that everyone's doing a good job. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. Yeah. But how do we get other people that can also get on board and do a good job if we're never going to entertain? You said it, I didn't say that. Other people have been on there forever. I didn't say that. So at what point do we start to see more inclusiveness?
Yeah, agreed.
I'll move it.
Well, I certainly agree with Ms. Porterfield, but I also recognize the fact that we're under a time constraint. But I agree that we need to think outside the box in general. And we have many more opportunities to do so as well in other boards and for other appointments. And so I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Kosher.
Okay, so we have the second one now. This is our bar appointment, the board assessment review. And again, we sent out emails to all our council, our colleagues here. We received 2 resumes that everybody should have in their packet. I believe it's all emailed everybody as well. So do we want to discuss both these individually a minute? How would you like to do this?
So,
Your call on this.
well, we can speak to them individually, and if you would like to start.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
There's no conflict of interest.
Okay. All right, the first one is Mr. Hitzhoff, and I believe he is currently on the planning, the Board of Assessment Review. And he has an expired term, and he's looking to continue on. And the other one is Mr. Mohammed. And I believe Mr. Woodavera is the one that provided his resume. So I would ask if, is there anyone that's lobbying on behalf of Mr. Hitler?
Yeah, I got a phone call, and Mr. Hillel definitely expressed his interest to me. He's been an active member of the bar. It is a demanding position. He's given good service, and he's interested in continuing his service. We'd be lucky to have him. I have not ever spoken to Mr. Mohammed.
So I also know Mr. Hillel, and he has been on, he's now, I think, the chair, and certainly has the background to do this work. I have met Mr. Mohammed, he's a younger guy.
Yeah.
And reviewing his resume, I really didn't see anything that, except I think one small thing, mortgage processing experience, but based on the kind of work that he's done, I didn't really see a lot of the skill set that would be needed in the review of the assessment review board. So, but as opposed to Mr. Hillel, he does have that. I would certainly support him remaining on there. He has not been on there a really long time, where I think this was his first term, maybe the second. But he has, was it his first? Right. So
Mr. Coach, was this his first term or second?
First term.
It's his
5 years.
First term.
Or 5 years?
Junior,
Yeah.
and he's actually chair. He was chair last year.
So this was his first term. So I would definitely support him, and he did call me and speak with me regarding that. But in addition to that, just seeing his skill set and everything that he brings, it's a good fit for the board.
No, okay. I'm good.
Did you want to say anything about Mr. Mohammed?
No, just to go back to the comments you talked about, bringing other people on board and having different people, different mindset. And this is an opportunity to bring a lot of people, young people, especially on board, and to get involved. And I think this is the opportunity, as Ms. Porter mentioned, someone to bring people on board rather than having these reappointed people back to back, and then increasing the broaden the scope of people and get a lot of people involved. So this is an opportunity to use this.
And I agree with that, and as I stated about bringing people on board, but as I said, with Mr. Mohammed, I don't see that he brings that skill set to this particular position. And he may be a young person that he'd ask to be on other things, since we're, doing outreach now and diversifying and all that. But for this particular, it's a very short time frame that people have to be able to know it to get it done. And so I think that, I see that Mr. Hillel has it, and maybe Mr. Mohammed could learn, or we could look at him for another board, because there are other boards out there that definitely need vacancies filled, and younger people as well.
So I would like to comment on the background. He does have a banking background. So I would, I would say that, having to pre-qualify mortgages, that he is looking at houses and assessments, and he is looking at at housing in general, and he would have to do the appraisals, and, if this is part of his job, which I know at Trustco that their platform people are jack of all trades, but I know that they get paid significant dollars on doing the mortgages.
Well, I'm reading what he said, and, he did mention that, but he mentioned many more things in what he said, so, and,
Well, I would say that he definitely would have background if he's doing mortgages, and from a banking standpoint, from a financial standpoint. He's looking at, appraisals, and he's looking at qualifying people, based on what their income is. And so I would say that he would have the wherewithal, and if he's going to quickly be able to catch on to being able to assess the expense control. Not that I'm in favor of banker but. Any other comments, questions? I'll go around. Mr. Kosher. Who would you like to support on this?
I'll go with Mr. Muhammad.
Okay, Mr. Muhammad.
I actually met with Mr. Muhammad and asked him about those very issues because I had concerns of his experience and the work that he does with Trustco more than qualifies him with the experience to do Board of Assessment review. I didn't hear anything from Mr. Hidal, so I will support Mr. Muhammad.
Ms. Peraza.
I think especially since Mr. Hitlall was the chair and adds continuity in going forward, and being that I have never spoken to Mr. Muhammad, and I certainly have spoken to Mr. Hitlall, and he's done a good job, and he holds the skill set, I would support Mr. Hitlall.
I will support Mr. Hill as well for all the reasons that I stated earlier, and again, he has not been on the board for a long time, he is the chair, and we're having continuity, and so I think that he's done a good job, and we've not, although we've heard concerns about other people, we've not heard any concerns about him. And the type of work that he does allows him the freedom because he needs to be able to be available for this specific amount of time. So during that time, he has the freedom to do that. And I can't see necessarily, I can't say for sure, that a person who is works in the bank every day has the freedom to be able to do a job like that to make those needs.
Mr. Ruby.
Yes, hey, Mr. Hitlall, he's the chairperson, he's been on the Board of Assessment Review, he has the experience, so I don't mind that he broke the fix it, so I'll be supporting him.
Okay. Mr. Rivera.
Mr. Muhammad, look at his background, and he's highly qualified to be on the bar, and he has the skill set, and I see no reason why I cannot support him for this position. So I'm in favor of Mr. Muhammad. He is, like any other member of any other board, trained to become, as good as everybody else, and for that reason I will support him.
So I will support Mr. Muhammad. We're bringing a younger individual in. I think it's a good move. I think he does have a skill set. So I too would support him. So I would entertain a motion. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay, next item on the agenda is the selling of property. So we would need to have a motion to go into executive session. Second. Second.
Oh, sorry. Second.
I didn't even know this was a microphone.
Smack it right there.
That's why you know.